And a good morning to you. Welcome inside the Bottom Line. Lanny Ford, Remember, back from the dredges of the coast.
Dredges. Yeah.
You like that, didn't you? I have completely recuperated almost. Nose still a little swollen, clogged up from the yellow dust that is infiltrating outside. It was funny. Dylan Abernathy, his black shoes were yellow. Yeah, I had to play golf. Yeah.
Are you the one fighting Tyson, or is?
No, I'm not fighting anybody.
Right, making sure.
Yeah. I'm not fighting anybody. I promise.
Got it.
But kind of clogged up from that. Plus, I got some swelling, so I think I'll go get things checked out today. See if they'll give me a little antibiotic and get things back to somewhat normal. Beautiful weather outside. Trees are blooming, but I got a bad feeling that we're going to get another frost before all this is over.
Yep.
So, I don't get used to it yet. They're talking about maybe close to 80 degrees this winter. I mean, this weekend, but there's still some cold weather coming.
Next Tuesday is going to be a little chilly.
I can't remember. There's some rain coming this weekend as well.
44. Let's see. Hold on. 40 in the 40s on low 50s on Tuesday. Yeah. 32 the low. Yeah, so like you said, it's we know it's not over though.
Yep. Richie, good morning. Richie said, I already fought Tyson. Oh, wait a minute, that was the floor. I tell people all the time, I got in a fight with the floor, and the floor won. I'm just telling you, the floor won. I saw an article, and I'm not trying to get you fired up this early in the morning.
Yeah, sure. Okay? Why not? I'm awake. I got green tea.
But here's the deal.
For that do.
Well, we got to get you through Lent so we can get you back on your Mountain Dews. All right, so here's the deal, and I thought this guy is his name is Seth Emerson, and Seth had an article that came out. If I'm not mistaken, it was in Athletic. I read a lot of the stuff that's in the Athletic. I think they do a good job with what they've got out there. But what he wrote about is something we've talked about, and this is why I say things are going to have to separate. As far good morning, G, going to have to separate as far as college football, the haves and the have-nots. And I'm going to give you a couple examples here that he wrote about. And this, like I say, Seth Emerson, I'll double-check, but I think it's the Athletic. He starts out with Brent Freeman, been a Georgia football season ticket holder for 32 years of his life. Passed down in his family. Now he and his father donate just more than $4,000 a year for the right to have 4 seats around the 25-yard line, 50 rows up. Perfect, he said, for his view. He lives just outside of Augusta, describes himself as middle class. He said spending thousands of dollars per year for tickets isn't ideal, but it just always has been in the family budget. Loves the dogs. 2 years ago, when a friend pointed out to him that George's new name, image, likeness collective, he decided to chip in $30 a month. But now the dynamic is changing. The collectives are seen as the way to get players, and Freeman worries that he and other fans will be asked for more. Meanwhile, he sees the SEC paying tens of millions each year to the schools, including Georgia, and he hears about NIL payments from fans like him, not the schools going to certain recruits. So he said, and I think this is the feeling that most people have for him. No ill will toward the university or anything, but my gripe is with the system.
Yeah, sure.
The system is broken. He said, asking fans, I think, is wrong. I think it's comical. The money NCAA brings in and the fact that they're asking fans, not just Georgia fans, but fans across the country, to give more, it's just kind of comical. You can't explain it to me. That's the best way you can do it. So there's a new term that's kind of came out that's called donor fatigue. They're tired of being asked for more and more, and that's when this is going to change. When the purse strings get cut and say, look, I can't do this anymore. I'm not willing to do this anymore.
Why would you?
And here's the other thing, and it's because they haven't separated. The rules are so screwed up that this money in this bucket can't pay for things in this bucket because of these rules. That's where it's going to have to change. And those that want to go all in and spend all this money to buy players, and that's what they're basically doing, they're going to have to figure out how we're going to do it, because I think it's going to happen that the donors are not going to do it. Take the big donors. Like there was one guy, if I'm not mistaken, go back to the Oklahoma State thing with the trucks. Yeah. One guy did all that. And what he did, he leased them. So he didn't buy all those trucks. He just leased them. But still, if he doesn't see quote unquote, some kind of return on his investment, whether it's wins or whatever, he's not going to continue to do that. I don't think these people are going to continue to put that money in. When alumni put money into the college for sports, scholarships, whatever, that's what they were putting it in for.
Yeah.
Now it's to buy these players on top of what they're asking you to keep up the scholarships and stuff. I told you, I've had the thing that if you get NIL money, you don't get a scholarship. You pay your own way. Give that scholarship to somebody that's not getting NIL money, that needs that money so they can get an education by playing a sport.
Yeah, but now, see, the lines are skewed now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you crossed over from, from being amateur to being professional.
Right.
Once money is involved in that way.
Right.
You know, there's always, and people, you know, whether head in the sand or whatever, there's always been padding of the pockets and line of the pockets.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But, you know, the whole premise was you're going to get an education in trade-off for your services. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then somebody started selling jerseys with somebody's number and name on it, and they didn't like that, and this is where this all started.
Yep.
Okay? So, you know, I got mixed feelings on it. And I like to keep things in their place because, you know, we have to achieve certain stages in our life to get to the next stage. And you know, it's all about growth and development and being the best you can be. Well, you know, and people may say, yeah, but it's not fair that they're getting this. Look, life's not fair.
Mm-mm.
What this teaches you is, wait a minute, if somebody's using what I got, then I need to start marketing it at some point. And
Right.
people will say, well, yeah, well, that's what they're doing now. They're doing it in an amateur setting that has now become a professional setting. So the separation's starting to happen. Okay? That's okay. Things evolve. But you're getting what you get, and it's not what you had. Okay? People would invest into the growth and development of other people, not into their wallets.
Right.
They would invest in scholarships to be able to bring, you know, whether they're, have, maybe, underprivileged, maybe not ways that have been very conducive to success,
mm-hmm.
to give themselves an opportunity to get there, achieve things, keep going, get out of their environment, that kind of thing, right? And we've all seen, even come from places that, we know maybe we're trying to get a little better or get better as we're going. That was the whole idea of this to start off with. And now it's about, well, I'm specializing in this, I'm getting paid at this. So that's fine, but that normally happened at the professional level.
Right. Now
it's happening at the collegiate level. And so now you don't have intercollegiate athletics anymore. Right. You have pay to play.
Right.
I don't see the same passion and fan base. Just let's use college basketball and NBA. In the NBA, as they're doing college basketball. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean people don't care about the NBA, but on a massive scale. Same thing with, football, right? There's a lot of passion with pro football. We know that. That's out there. It's a bigger entity, that kind of thing. There's a tremendous amount with college football, all right? We're going to start seeing those things kind of, counterbalance. And I don't know where it's going to go.
Here's where they think it's going to go. I'll give you a couple more things here. It said fans are already asked to donate a lot for season tickets, not to mention the facilities arms race, and now being asked to essentially pay the players while the schools are prohibited from doing so directly by the NCAA rules. That's where that's got to be changed. Yeah. It's got to be funded from where the revenue is being generated. If they're going to do this. That's
why it's broken and won't ever work out.
And I'm going to tell you what, this is what Walter Jones, he's the executive director of the Grove Collective, which supports Ole Miss athletics. Mm-hmm. He said, I think there's an understanding that donor-led and the fan-led model is not equitable and not sustainable.
No,
it's not. And it's not. He said, I think it's wise for these power conferences to figure out a revenue share, to figure out a way to collectively bargain, which would then address donor fatigue. It would add sustainability and would give the athletes the ability to truly capitalize on name, image, and likeness through revenue sharing. That's where the NCAA refused to get involved. Once it got to the courts don't just they don't do it easily. It's just are they allowed to make money or not make money? Well, that just kicked the door open. and there were no regulations. If there had been something there to start with, it would have been. It says one person likened name, image, and likeness to a trampoline. It's used to get the program to the next level, but the trampoline costs money to build, and people need to be shown how to use it. Other people might not see NIL as a trampoline, but just as a burden. But they've got to figure out what they're going to do to make this work. So there are some fans, alumni. Here's a guy, 57 years old, lives in Athens, goes to Georgia sporting events, been a football season ticket for over 30 years, pays about $3,000 a year for his 2 tickets. He said when asked to donate to the collective, he declined. Part of it, by Sullivan's acknowledgement, is he's old school. I'm not going to do that. I'm here to support Georgia. I'm not here to do this to support the professional side of it. And here's a Clemson guy. Anderson, South Carolina, been giving money to Clemson athletic department since 1987. Yep. Pays around $2,000 a year for his season tickets. After setting out the 2020 season because of COVID, he and his wife opted not to renew, and haven't looked back. Among friends who remain season ticket holders, he hears the same refrain. People have only so much disposable income to support their teams.
And it's down 20% over the last 2 to 3 years.
That's right.
Too,
yeah.
Because of inflation, right? So, is our income kept up with what we're having to spend for essentials and things like that? The answer in a lot of cases is no. So the donor fatigue thing is real, but this is the other thing too. When you have a charity or something that you're passionate about and you invest in it and you find out that the CEO is making $10 million a year for the supposed charity, when that money's coming in, it makes you rethink what you're doing. And just as a personal example, Mandy and I are big about helping rehome animals and that kind of thing, trying to find for strays and just trying to help. If we do anything at all, it's directly for the benefit of the animal. So if they need medical care, I'm just giving an example. Food, whatever.
You shared a post on Facebook that I thought was great along those same lines. If you've got some luggage that you've upgraded, don't take it to Goodwill somewhere. Take it to a place that does foster care because these kids don't have suitcases.
No, and they
go
move
back
a
and
lot.
forth.
And foster care is probably one of the hardest. My mother worked for DSS for a long, long time, and we lived down in the Whiteville Lake. Well, we lived at Lake Walkable, but in the Whiteville area. And my sister and I were like 6, 8 years old, and on days we didn't have school, she would take us on the home visit. She did, and some of the things that I saw, growing up, really helped me understand and get an idea of what's really going on in the world and what people are living with and trying to persevere through. And I say living without. And it's a great self-motivation tactic to try to when you see things like that at a young age and you don't quite understand why that person in their house that has dirt floors, why their windows missing in the house and things like that. And mom's job was to go in and try to help people qualify, or if they were being fraudulent, for example, that kind of thing. But she helped a lot of people over a long time, and I say fortunately, my sister and I were able to see those things at an early age, and that's why I'm passionate about not especially young people and getting the parents that maybe haven't seen these things before to understand it's not okay to be lazy. It's not okay to backtalk because they're people, especially kids out there, Shriners Hospital, all these things, that don't have the opportunity to go do these things that your kid's taken for granted.
Yep.
So if you want to accuse me of being a hard butt and not trying to get the best out of your kid, I don't care. I'm going to do that, right? I'm always going to do that. I do that with my own children. And it's very important knowing the difference between you can't and you won't.
Yeah.
And you choose not to. And this whole thing with NIL, I look at all the money that's being sent overseas, all the money that's being spent for this and that, and the one thing I go back to is it's always okay to do what you want to do with the money that you earn, okay? But we have things that are needing to be addressed on this side of the pond.
Yep.
Okay. And that doesn't mean we don't pay attention to things outside. But what's happening is we're not looking at the inner, workings of our own, towns, cities, our own culture, area, and we're just pouring money into things for a narrative that's started by a few people, basically, just to eventually become unionized.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not against unions, but what I'm saying is there's a lot of misdirection and focus here.
Well, there's no direction, and there's no structure to what they're doing. Let me give you a couple of these things. Richie, we will get to some of those NFL moves. Milton said it's just like tipping. Everyone wants more. Now a tip at a self-checkout. Really? I have to draw the line. Let's see. Andrew said it puts a whole new light on first world problems. Good morning, Wayne Ward.
Thank you, Andrew.
Bruce said wait until it becomes more prevalent on the high school level. And it's going to get there because they've always said that it could. We'll just have to wait and see. Let me tell you a couple more things that's in here that I thought was interesting in this thing. Jason Belcher, he's the founder of Student Athlete NIL Agency that advises about 50 different collectives. He says donor fatigue was inevitable in the current model.
Yeah.
He said those people have now had to step up to pay not only the university's regular operating costs, but now the payrolls of teams. He said we're now in the third year of NIL, and a lot of school donors aren't getting a return on their investment. Before, you at least got your name on the building or something. Now you pay for the payroll and your team doesn't win. Belcher estimates at least 15 schools' collectives will pay more than $10 million to the football team. He said the median among the power conferences is around 4 to 5. That money's either in an addition or in place of money that was going to traditional donations for season tickets, facilities, and those type things. Said, I've had one conversation with an AD. He said, I have said you have to be ready or you're going to be on the wrong side of what's about to happen. But in the current model, where do programs stand? Georgia, kind of in the same group as Alabama's a program that have recruited well, won recently on the field, although Alabama faced a big change as it moves forward without Nick Saban. They built a lot of facilities during the past decade, fundraising to do so. Donors might be closer to being tapped out. LSU, Clemson, other schools that went fully into the facilities race are in that boat. Teams like Georgia, however, have added burden of recent success, which makes fans wonder why their collectives need money. So what's going to happen is you're going to pull back the curtain. And that's what nobody wants to do. They're going to pull back the curtain and see where the money's going, why the money's going, and somebody is going to have to figure it out because this is not going to continue. I'm not saying that paying athletes and NIL is not going to continue, but the current concept is not going to continue because these schools can't.
Well, they got to get the money from somewhere, okay? And if they don't get it from television contracts, because people are not just going to donate money for a kid to transfer in 1 year because you're not building anything. All you're doing is all of a sudden you've got a collective of it's like a travel team, right? You get all these great players together and you go play somebody and you destroy them. You think, hey, look what we did. Well, I mean, you really didn't build anything. You just gathered.
Yeah.
And there's really not a lot of attractiveness. We're the national champions. Look at us. And then wait a minute. All these guys just came in for 1 year and we won this thing, and now – that's not really satisfying. I'm national champ. Well, we didn't really build anything. We just kind of gathered.
Well,
it's kind of like going out and fishing. If you hit if the Blues are running, and you just throw your line out there, are you really, and you don't stop all day long, is that really fishing, or is it waiting for that bite that comes in because you work the pond or work the water? I mean, I don't know, man.
Well, it's like everything else, and you know this. Everything boils down to basic economics, supply and demand.
Yeah.
So if you can't keep up the supply of money and the demand's there, they're going to go somewhere else. Yeah. So at some point, the ones that want to play in that arena will play in that arena. But I think you're going to find a lot of other ones that say, look, we just want to be student athletes. Mm-hmm. And I think you can still control the NIL thing if you say this group does not allow NIL, this group does, so you're not discriminating. You just got to see if you are good enough to get in there. And I hope that that's where it goes. That's what I wish the NCAA had done. okay, we're only going to do this and we're going to do that instead of just opening these floodgates. And now they've opened the floodgates and have no idea how to sustain it.
And what's going to happen is it's kind of like, all this stuff with like TikTok and YouTube and all these things. People are starting to get to the point where, all this crazy stuff or funny stuff is just, the shock and awe of it, the excitement of it, it's just kind of wearing off.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, well, that I've seen this before. Or, this guy does 17 backflips off a 200-foot cliff and, he hits the wall. Well, that's great. But, at some point people realize, well, wait a minute, me watching this and laughing about it is great, but, it's not really helping me, pay my bills every day, things that I've, got to take care of. And so eventually you navigate from things, and everything, goes in a circle, Lanny.
Oh, yeah, everything's cyclical. Yeah.
Maybe, not in the exact form, but in the pattern and the principle of things, right? And
let me ask you this:
it's just the NFL's going to go back to running the football here in a couple of years.
When you look at the way things are set up now, and the pushback that you're starting to get from alumni and stuff, I would say that the majority of alumni, as bad as they want to win, they still want it to be something they can be proud of.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
From the university.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Yeah. And if you've ever done pyramid schemes, God bless you. Knock yourself out.
Well,
but there's been opportunities that have been presented to me that you could do this.
Yeah.
You could do this. You'd be good. You make a lot of money. If it's not something that I can do that I am proud to put my name on how I got there,
right.
I don't do it. I don't do it just for the end result. I got to have some personal, internal satisfaction.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's what's happening now. And Milton, you're exactly right. And I'm going to take a break. Milton says the problem is now the bell can't be unrung, and that's where everything.
No, that's true. But the ringing eventually stops.
Yes.
To Milton's point,
yes.
right?
Yes.
And what happens is you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Nope.
But you can throw it in the friggin' trash can or down the sink.
Yep.
All right, which is eventually where it goes.
Yep.
There's so much wrong with things, not changing. Okay, there's not that things are always going to change, right, wrong, or indifferent. Things are always changing, evolving.
Yep.
But there's so much wrong with this, especially. Well, I'm going to go to this school next year because they're going to pay me $5 million. That's not intercollegiate athletics.
No.
Okay, and while that may be exciting, look who we got. Well, then you fall back on it and be like, well, wait a minute. Basically we bought that player instead of earning, the opportunity to coach that kid, to develop their talents, their gifts, this. And then what's happened is instead of the kid, and parent being grateful for the opportunity that's been presented, now it's like, well, how much are we going to get paid, right? So, you say you can't blame people for this. Listen, everything falls back on us as individuals.
Right.
Everything is our fault. Full ownership. Something good happens in my life, thank you, God. Something bad or something that I don't like happens, thank you, God. That's the way I've started doing things instead of saying, why me? I should get mine, do this. That is a very immature, very narrowly focused way. And people, a lot of times that do those things, I'm getting mine now. That means they won't have theirs later. And that's what we're failing to teach as the world gets right-sided again. Remember, first time in history, the whole time in history, the kids always wanted to be like the parents and grandkids. Technology flipped that where the parents and the grandparents are trying to be like the kid to catch up social media. Now things are starting to right-side again.
Right.
And so you're going to see the wave coming back.
Well, here's the deal, and I'll take my break. Here's the thing that you have to understand. You can, if you want to play for the love of the game, you can still make it to the big show, because a prime example of that is Kyle Duggar, got a contract with the New England Patriots, started getting ready to get his second contract that's going to be fairly sizable.
It'll be a good one.
He didn't get any NIL, but he was a player that could play and was recognized for his talents. And if you do that, you'll find it.
But he was worried about his growth and development and trying to be the best player
That's
he
right.
could be. He wasn't worried about how much am I going to make.
If you'll take care of that side of it, the making will take care of itself.
And and what I found in most cases is, and just looking at things, the players themselves, the kids, the young people themselves really aren't worried about how much they're going to make. It's the parents worried about how much the kid's going to make.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to a parenting and, an ethical side of things. And it doesn't mean that you don't go out and shop the market and see what's going on, but you do it in a responsible manner. I mean, watching the movie Moneyball, it came on last night. G and I were sitting in there watching it. The way Billy Bean's parents were sitting there as the New York Mets scouts were going through what they wanted to do with him, they were very, calm. They weren't saying, well, this is a lot of money, he needs more. They were saying, well, you realize he has a full scholarship to Stanford, and we want him to be able to go there. They said, I'm sorry, but, he can't do that. Baseball has to be his first profession. Why he can't go to school and do professional baseball. And with the investment we're going to put in him, this is what we expect, and we expect he'll do well. Of course, that didn't work out, but the whole point is there was, it was level-headed and thoughtful about things instead of give me mine. And the one thing people aren't thinking about in all this money is this taxation.
Yeah. You got to look at the long-term picture.
And that doesn't mean that you don't go make money and then pay your taxes. That's not what I mean. But, just because you get a check $500,000, that quickly puts you in another area code.
That's exactly
very
right.
quick.
Yep. Let me take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about free agency.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home.
First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver, or visit mooneyinsurance.com.
Have you thought about when you would like to retire? One of your major assets is planning for retirement is time, and you lose a little of it each day. The longer you wait to start accumulating capital for retirement, the harder it's going to be. How should you plan for retirement? Start by calculating approximately how much capital you will need at retirement, then estimate how much you will have to put away each year. Finally, carefully choose the investments in which you will invest. Stiefel Nicholas can assist you. Call Fort Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stiefel Nicholas, member SIPC and the New York Stock Exchange.
That's not what it's supposed to do. Welcome back. Okay. Stop that. I don't know what it's doing.
The Energizer Bunny, man.
I guess.
It's fantastic.
Let's talk a little bit about free agency. I'll catch a couple comments that came in. And Roll back here just a little bit. Where's G? G said Brian Burns has been traded to the Giants for a second and a fifth. Saquon Barkley signed with the Eagles. Packers cut Aaron Jones and signed Josh Jacobs. Chiefs re-signed Chris Jones, $100 million deal on him.
Yeah.
Jaguars trade for Mac Jones, which was a no-brainer for what, a 6th-round pick?
Yeah.
It's a backup.
That's good.
So, now Milton says Panthers have a new GM and the same dumb decisions. I don't think Tepper would let people do their job. I'm not convinced we need help. I'm not convinced we need to help the Panthers leave the Carolinas. I don't think that's happening. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt again for the simple reason that you got to wait and see what happens. A lot of people don't realize just how ugly things were at the Panthers as far as what they have and what they don't. How about Kirk Cousins goes to the Falcons, and Justin Fields, I think he's still out there, if I'm not mistaken. There's no market for him from what I have seen. Cousins included a $100 million guarantee at the Atlanta Falcons. He was with the Vikings and with Washington. Tell me your thoughts on Russell Wilson to the Steelers.
Well, I mean, I think, last week when I was listening to the show, Juju, was adamant about that's never going to happen. And, right, wrong, or indifferent. I mean, we read and don't, but we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Our defense, his defense, everybody else is right. The thing about it is Mike Tomlin likes an athletic quarterback, and he's made that very, apparent and known with Justin Fields, how much he likes Justin Fields. And, they've got to get some dynamic, athleticism to their offensive game because of their defensive game. And it's very fair for someone to say, yeah, but Wilson's in the last part of his career. Well, I listened to Max Kellerman, on the Dynasty, the show that the Patriots, coming out, that's come out about the Patriots and Belichick and Brady and, all that. And back in 2000, whatever it was, 15 or 16, he's saying Brady's done, he's washed up, he will fall off, this kind of thing. Rejuvenation and motivation are two very, very powerful, very, very powerful, things that often are presented with people that are intrinsically motivated, okay? To overcome, to right the wrong or right the narrative that has been written for them, all right? A lot of times we can't help the situation we're in, and I say what we think we're going into is not always what we're going into, right? The grass isn't always greener. Sometimes we just feel like we have to do something, da-da-da-da-da, all right? If Wilson goes to the Steelers, all right, they instantly become an outside-the-pocket team, which is not what Steeler football has really done over the years. But because of the way their defense plays, they need to be on the edge instead of everything in between the tackles. Because if you're going to go between the tackles, then you need to have a fullback, all right, and two tight ends, and you need to run the football downhill. Well, they're just not going to do that, okay? And with the defense they got, they're going to try to do things to keep them off the field a little more, and bringing somebody in like Wilson, allows them to be a little bit more dynamic, not because he's as fast as he was, but because he's as smart as he's ever been because of his experience. And, he'll be able to get through and, get outside the pocket and make some plays outside the pocket with some of the young receivers they got that, run pretty well, just not able to get the football to them. And I think they'll go more towards the middle of the field, which they neglected very much early on last year. Wilson has that ability to, not necessarily throw back against his body, but see things develop across the field instead of in the field if he's out, across the field in layers. And, that'll put pressure on a lot of defenses as well, so they just can't lay their ears back. So it'll be interesting. I'm not against Kenny Pickett at all, okay? I think, he's got a lot of, very good talents, a lot of great attributes. But, I do think there's some responsibility with putting the best people in charge, of what you're, having them do, and then holding them accountable for that. And then eventually the finger always comes back to the head guy.
Right.
And so I think he's trying to make some changes to kind of, and there's, Mike Tomlin's a great leader of men, but just because you are that doesn't mean that sometimes when it's time, okay? And, we can sit there and talk about longest tenured this, longest tenured that. Look at where Belichick's legacy has gone the last year based on what he can't win without Brady. Well, I don't know if that's true or not. It's a fair argument, but I don't know if that's true or not because, the plans he had with Garoppolo and what he wanted to do were the things that, as long as Josh McDaniel was there, that they would be able to do. I mean, look how Castle came in the year that Brady got hurt. Look how Garoppolo played the first 4 games when Brady was suspended.
Mm-hmm.
Castle, they were 2 games away from the Super Bowl. Isn't that right? 2 games or 3 games, 2 games away, whatever. And then I think they only lost 1 or 2 games that year. So I don't know. It's just it'll be very interesting with Wilson if he does go to Pittsburgh versus them. Maybe trading the farm away for somebody like Kirk Cousins who could basically give him the same thing and give him a little bit better, chance to win. That's who I would go after. I would go after Cousins, and I don't care how old he is. I would go after him because he will immediately bring credibility to that position.
Cousins is going to Atlanta.
I know, but that's who I would have gone after. Okay, I would have given the farm to have a guy like that because my edge rushers are 2 of the, Watt's the best player in football. Okay, you can talk about Patrick Mahomes all you want. T.J. Watt is the best player in football, and they got the Highsmith kid. There's just so many things that you can do, and like G was talking about, they can actually pick up extra safety now to go with Fitzpatrick in the backfield. That would make things even tougher because of all the free agents with safeties and the people being released, and there's a lot going on, man, a lot.
I was, and I can't find the story, but there was G probably knows, there was who's the offensive lineman that the Panthers signed for like $100 million?
Oh, is that right guard? He'll chime in. Well, he's actually
not Damian Lewis.
Yeah, he better not be chiming in because he's in front of the screen right now.
Well, he needs
school.
He needs some. I need him. Robert Hunt.
He's the right guard.
He came out of Miami.
Yeah, I mean they're going to fix that line, and when they do, you're going to see a major difference in Bryce Young.
But they still don't have.
You're going to see a major. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it was him.
Yeah.
Agreed to terms, 5-year, $100 million deal with former Miami Dolphins guard Robert Hunt. Reportedly $63 million guaranteed. He was a second-round pick coming to the Panthers. 27 years old. He started 51 of 61 games with the Dolphins. Spent most of the time at both right tackle and right guard. It seems unclear what the signing means for either Austin Corbett or Brady Christensen. Team is still in the market for a center after this signing, as they have signaled their intentions to release Bradley Bozeman within the next week. I guess the part that bothers me the most with the Panthers, still haven't addressed left tackle.
Yeah,
they still haven't addressed any type of running game so that they can get some pressure off whoever their quarterback is.
Yeah.
Brian Burns to the Giants. I'm okay with that. I'm not sure they got enough for him, but I think they got a second and a fifth. Does that sound right? And I don't know if they're this year. Next year.
Yeah, they got a second and fifth. I don't see building the team through drafting. I mean, I don't. I think free agency is the way you correct a lot of this to get some more experienced, older, proven players in, and then you go from there, and then you draft from there, right? This is a cluster.
To me, I've never liked the philosophy that when you're drafting, you don't draft for needs. You draft by the best, most of the.
Why would you do that?
But and use them for trade bait. But if you don't have any way to get there, that's stupid. I would fill my positions that I needed.
This is the thing, and there's 6 one way, half a dozen other. I mean, Belichick is big about taking on the best player in the draft, right? That's why he felt like Brady was the right pick at 199. He says he's the best available player for what we see and what we want and what we think he can do, right? And so he went with that player instead of a need, because that they gave him like 4 quarterbacks, right? But he saw something that he thought may be there from a developmental standpoint. And just there's so many different ways of looking at it. Like the guy that was the great coach at Manchester United, his thing was is always dare to rebuild your team. And what he meant was I'm not just going to fill positions based on what I need, but I'm going to upgrade at every position that I can when it's available.
Right.
He's like, I don't care if I have the second or third best player in the league playing this. If I got a chance to get the first one and put him in that position, I'm doing that. He was never afraid, and then maybe moving that guy. He was never afraid to rebuild his team, right? The problem is with pro football, and the difference between that and soccer is the amount of players you have, and that everybody's not going both ways, right? And so you have to have a fine line between the two. But daring to rebuild your team is one of the is one of the things that you've constantly got to be looking at, in each of the positions. This year's draft is going to be very, very unique because we don't have, all the hype of 17 quarterbacks and how great they are. And personally, Lanny, I think it's you get a generational pick, like a Manning or a something like that. That only works out once every 8 to 10 years. These guys that are taking number 1 and number 2 as quarterbacks normally are not working out very well.
All right, let me ask you this. The Jets pick up Tyrod Taylor to be the backup for Aaron Rodgers. I like Tyrod Taylor. I don't think he's a 17-game starting quarterback, but he is very, very usable if you need that.
Good. He's always been that way.
And then the Vikings signed Sam Darnold. And I'll say this about Sam Darnold, just like some other quarterbacks that have come through. Yeah. If you go high in the draft, you're going to a dumpster fire.
Right.
That's just it.
Right.
So some of these quarterbacks were really talented but didn't have the right coaching matchup, didn't have the right amount of tools. But if put in this right situation, I'm not convinced that there aren't more players that can play in the league if they have the right situation. I think a lot of players get in situations that are no-win situations because they can't get enough help to where they can make and develop. And we've got to the point to where nobody sits, especially quarterbacks. If you take a first-round quarterback, you want him in there day one, you're not doing him any favors. Look at the top quarterbacks now that were able to sit. Aaron, Brett Favre,
keep going.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yes,
I mean, the list goes on.
Look at Steve Young.
Yes, behind Montana.
Right,
yes.
And I've had some debate with family members on Mandy's side, about whether Steve Young is there. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play football. And people are like, what are you talking about? He's like, look at what he was able to do.
Yeah.
You say, well, yeah, but he had this and it. The fact that he could still deliver at the rate that Montana did and with the effectiveness, all right, and if Dallas, think about this. The one thing Montana didn't have to battle that Young had to battle was the Dallas dynasty.
Yeah.
Okay? You say, yeah, but Dwight Clark caught that pass. Listen, Dallas was going this way at that time, okay?
That's right.
This way. And there was really good football. The 49ers very easily could have been 3 or 4 times Super Bowl champions with Young had it not been for the Cowboys. And that's okay. We can say that about any era.
Yeah.
But I do think the UFL is going to bring and enhance a tremendous amount of quarterback talent that the NFL has floundered or is not patient enough to let develop with some of these younger, maybe not so much known quarterbacks. Look at the young man from Chicago last year that came out of the small school.
Right.
That came in and was so effective. Again, all we hear about the pundits for the draft is well, this quarterback's great out of the pocket. He can run and he can do this and he can do that and he's so electric and he can run the ball and game management.
But all that works. But the other side of that forward that you have to take into consideration is, do you have a coaching staff and coaching philosophy that meshes with that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the prime example for that was last year with the Carolina Panthers because, in my opinion, where they messed up is they brought a coach in, but they wouldn't give him the tools that he needed to make his system work. and expected that round peg to fit in that square hole, and it's not.
Then you have people that are around him going and talking to Tepper saying, well, he's not doing this, and he's not you. And the Tepper's like, well, I think we'll do this. And everybody's like, yeah, you're right, and just fuels it. Well, I'm going to fire this guy because he's not doing what I want to do. Think of it like this. The quarterback is much like a panel box, right? Knowing when to flip things on and off, all right? Your major power players, all right, are your defensive ends, all right? They're the 220 amp or what, I don't even know. I'm trying to give this example, all right? Your linemen, big power players, right? And then you got your cornerbacks, flip the switch. Wide receivers, flip the switch. Depending on what kind of running back you got, it could be a 220 or 110, all right? But it's up to the quarterback to make sure that things are on and off as necessary, all right, instead of going and being the 220 amp themselves. Can't do that consistently because of the speed of the game. And, again, I don't care how fast Lamar Jackson is. I don't care. Congratulations for being the player of the year or whatever it was you were, MVP, whatever. But, you know, the one thing that I think we can all look at now and say is the Chiefs do not win the Super Bowl if Chris Young is not playing. All right, what did the 49ers do that very few people do? They held Mahomes to how many points? 19. All right. Chris Jones held the 49ers to, what, 13?
Yeah.
I mean, let's just, you know, I mean.
That's why I got a big payday.
Yeah, so, you know, again, we're trying to make the quarterback this end-all, be-all position.
Yeah.
And in New England, Brady just dumped the ball off to receivers, couple of tosses to, you know, running backs, right? And their defense was really, really good. I mean, follow the model.
Yep. Milton, you're right. Milton, talking about Steve Young, he played for the Bucks for 2 years.
Yeah, first, yeah.
He
played USFL too.
USFL first.
I think he did.
And I think the Bucks had his rights, and that's why he went to the Bucks when he came into the league. Yeah, so you're correct, Milton.
Yep.
Well, you know, the whole thing is there's more moving parts behind the scenes that you have got got to make sure that you get those to mesh. And I don't know what they are. I just know that from where the Panthers were, it's not going to hurt them to kind of start over and see what they can build. You know, there are key positions that if you don't have these key positions on your team, it makes it hard for you to win. If you don't have a quarterback, if you don't have a premier edge rusher, if you don't have a premier corner, okay?
I agree.
And then I'll switch it whether it's a wide receiver or tight end because right now that tight end has become very, very valuable in the NFL.
More valuable.
And you've got to have an offensive line that can at least let your quarterback play.
Well, Laney, you know, again, it's war. You know, your infantry, you know, your tanks, and the people with the right, you know, with the right, I say rifle. I'm just using, you know, examples here. But the front lines are what is going to win.
That's right.
And determine the war. It's not the planes coming in or the Tomahawks being fired off of the cruise ships.
Yeah.
All right. I say cruise ships, battleships, okay. With the cruise missiles, all those things, Tomahawk, all those things. I mean, all that's great. But that's air power that comes in after the infantry, right? And you say, yeah, but you can set the stage with that stuff first. Yeah. When you see it coming, it's a little different. All right. And the make a splash Sonny thing, you know, from draft day and all that, you know, think of it like this. So we're down at the beach at the house first 3 or 4 days before we went to Sunset. Excuse me. The house across the street from where we are was on poles, and the guy tried to build a deck without getting a permit, and they basically shut him down for like 2 years. He was redoing the house.
Right.
So they finally started working on it again. Well, last summer they came out when we were down, and they put brand new, I guess 12 by whatever they were, huge pylons in. So they took out the old poles, and they put those in. Didn't tear the house down.
Uh-huh.
Then the next thing they did is they raised the house about 8 feet from what it was, I guess, to the 100-year Hazel flood or whatever it
Wow.
was. That's like 12 feet above our house, right? But so they redid that. Then they went in and they put all new boards on the outside.
Uh-huh.
They raised the roof to a second story. All right. They built a balcony out back. They didn't just come in and decimate the house and start over. My next door neighbor, who's a contractor, says they should have just tore the thing down and start over. What that guy was doing was he was rebuilding on the foundation that he had. All right. He didn't want to tear down.
And I imagine there were some benefits in there from some grandfather clauses that's why you'll see McDonald's, they don't just tear one down, they'll leave the exterior walls so they don't have to do a lot of the things that new regulations and zoning require you to do.
And so the point being, you can rebuild from within, but it's got to be a step at a time. And as far as the Panthers go or the Steelers offense goes, it's going to be a work in progress.
Yes, it is.
And I got to tell you, that Panther fans are kind of, right now, especially people I talk to that are fans, they love the Panthers, but they don't love what's going on, and they're not really blaming the players for this.
Growing pains,
but it's always felt like that's what it's been since day one. Go to Super Bowl in 2 years, go to Super Bowl this, that, but it's always felt like we're just taking a step back. We're taking a step back. We're taking a step back. The thing about it is, in life, you can take a step back to get too forward. At some point, they got to start moving forward with the taking a step back. You take a step back, you reassess, you reevaluate, you reflect, right? And then that enables you to take those 2 steps forward. So 1 back, 2 forward. I mean, you eventually start moving that way. It's not happening.
Well, biggest thing with the Panthers is they have to get out of their own way, and it's just that simple. We got to get out of here. Have a great day. Back Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think G got it. See, Mandy had switched. He'd been under the weather for a couple of days.
Yeah.
All right. So she switched the doctor's appointment or the dentist appointment. And so he thought last night that he didn't have to go to he didn't have school on Thursday and Friday. So he didn't think he had to go. He thought he was going to the dentist today and that he'd be free on Thursday. So Mandy changed it because he wasn't feeling well. He's like, I feel great. I'm ready to get. So she's trying to switch it back so he can get her. But he has broken down the safeties, running backs, all these things, and he was talking a little bit about with let go. He hit me with it yesterday, and I mean it was a plethora of things and possibilities that a lot of teams could do. And I don't know, I need to get that boy down to Carolina and let him get in the front office and start doing an internship or something.
Right now we're planning on a G visit for Thursday.
So hopefully I can get him in here. And he's got some good stuff on that. He really does. So
have a great day, everybody. We'll see you.